Yeah, John, I guess the concern I have here is that your client has come back with a plan, which I don't like the garbage bins where they are. Being incorporated in the front of the building like this. I realize it's a roll up, but chances are I know what they're gonna do. They're gonna be sitting out there. Most of the time. I know it looks like crap. Why are the garbage bins not being accessed from the rear of the property? And why did this developer not make an agreement with the adjacent property owner to have an easement to do so?
Well, the property owner to the north is Canada Insulcal, as well as to the west. Typically, the city of Winnipeg doesn't drive across other people's private property to pick up garbage.
This is not a private pickup?
That I didn't get into details, but I know usually if the city of Winnipeg does pick up a multifamily, I can clarify and find out. But typically, you don't get easements for garbage pickup from adjacent, properties. It's your same thing with vehicle access. We have access to the front of the street. I would admit, there's properties around there in Winnipeg that, Grassy Boulevard is another example where I've done a lot of projects along Grassy where there is no rear back lane and the garbage is taken out of the front. 444 Grassy, other properties along Grassy, the garbage is located at the front. Ravelston, I had a lengthy public hearing a couple of weeks ago on an appeals committee on that about where to put the garbage cans. That's the situation common across Winnipeg. This one happens to have a non-accessory parking lot directly to the north and side of it, but Canadians can change their plans at any time and build buildings there and, deny us entry.
You have 16 parking stalls?
I believe that's the number. We have parking underneath the building here.
And how many units?
Off the top of my head, it's not going to be happening. Like this is rezoning. Let me pull off my documentation. Dwelling units, 4 stories, 18 vehicle parking, 16 longer ones.
How many units?
18 dwelling units.
Who were the other parking stalls? Did we approve it with a ratio like that?
Yeah, we approved all the variances and rezonings and.
So you have a total of 18 units.
18, yeah, we zoned it to multifamily large.
Yeah, so you're already short on parking stalls anyways, one per one unit. They're gonna be parking on the Canada parking lot anyway.
I can't. I'll speak quickly about Canadians. They're a client of mine in the past on other projects and such like this, and I've been involved in a couple of legal matters where I'll say if a private landowner, such as a grocery store up on McPhillips, allows people to park on their property, they can do that, but they also have the right to tow it. That doesn't give you any kind of.
I also spoke to your client in advance of the hearing, and I told him to make arrangements with the Canadians to both access for garbage and for parking. And he assured me he was gonna do that.
I'm here today for the plans.
I know.
On landscaping.
And I'm not gonna approve today because frankly, it's not exactly what I was hoping for. I look at the entranceway of the building, it's inadequate. I look at the bicycle parking, it's pathetic. I look at the garbage in the front, and it frankly does not impress me. The garbage should be coming off the rear, and there should be an easement agreement. You can get an easement agreement with the Canadians. You pay them every year, but you can get an agreement. And you can get parking stalls, which your clients, this building's gonna need. Because your parking ratio is low, your client's gotta go back to the drawing board. I'm not gonna approve this today without those changes.
Well, I'll respectfully say we've encountered a lot of delays at this committee.
I know, but you're gonna have more delays coming up.
All right, and I think we'll take the appropriate course of action.
Absolutely, you do what you gotta do, but I'm just telling you what I like to see.
All right, I will say I would.
No,
ask
I'm
the
just telling you.
to make a motion and.
I will be laying the matter over and requesting these changes.
I would find that very unproductive in terms.
Well, I hear what you're saying, John, but I'm just telling you what the committee's gonna do. Okay, and I would hope it could get your cooperation, it may not get your cooperation, but I hope it could get the cooperation of your client, who's not here today.
I would remind the committee, we're here for plan approval for the design of the building.
I know that, John. We are here for the design, that's what I've spoken to. I don't have any other questions.
Some of the matters you're raising have nothing to do with.
No, it does. It has everything to do with Planet Food. Bicycle parking, lack of landscaping. There's a lack of landscaping on the entire property that he has. The easement that him and I discussed that he agreed he would do, I take a man for his word, which clearly has not occurred. And to get excess parking that we approved it on the basis in advance that he was gonna do that.
I don't recall anything like that being.
Well, then you should talk to your client and maybe remind him. So, and the entranceway is inadequate in the sense that it doesn't have a presence on the street whatsoever. This is a major collector that we're running on here. I think he's gotta send this back to Finity and ask them to come up with a design that is a little bit more appropriate for the entranceway as well. And frankly, the garbage bins being rolled out like this, you know, until the city can start fining you for basically you're not rolling them out and putting them back in, which of course we don't have the resources to do. It causes me a real problem with regards to having a site like this. I really think that the site has to have the garbage coming off the back, as him and I discussed, and the parking.
Right, so I just want to make sure I understand that a building permit, development permit wouldn't be issued because a plan approval won't be approved because if.
I didn't say the plan approval is not gonna be approved, John, you're putting words in my mouth.
Well, I just want to clarify then, if my client can't secure an easement from an adjacent private property owner.
We will deal with that at that point. We will deal with that at that point. That's right now speculation. It's a hypothetical question.
So Canada Inns has to be.
I don't wanna talk about a third party here today.
Well, that's exactly what's happening. You're talking.
Well, that is your client's responsibility, as he agreed to.
But you just said that unless I can get
I did not say that. You're putting words in my mouth, John.
Well, that's
I did
why
not
I'm
use the word
clarifying.
unless. I did not use the words unless.
So
I said that these issues have to be addressed.
how would they be addressed to adequate?
That is up to your client. Take it back.
You're the decision maker.
Yes, we are. And I'm suggesting to you to take it back. Are you in an argument with me here?
No, I'm asking for clarity.
Okay, if I will make it clear, if you're quiet for a minute.
Okay.
Do I have your attention?
100%.
Okay, good. Number one, I want more landscaping. Number two, I want the building entranceway to be addressed so that it has more of a presence on the street. Number three, I want the garbage, find another alternative to having the garbage rolled out in the front like this. Number four, I want to see an arrangement with whether, and if he can't accommodate by the adjacent property owner, he has to do it himself. Obviously on his property, he's got to work with the property that he has. Now your client has gone away with a lot. He was supposed to put in a bike path on here, and somehow the clause got killed at APC by a member of that committee taking it out. So your client's able to do some amazing things behind the scenes, I know. Okay, so I have full confidence in his abilities. So I'll move. If Councilor Bellotti, if you want to take the chair, I'm going to move suspension of the rules to deal with this item immediately for the sake of Mr. Winthrop. We've been waiting. All right. I'll move suspension of the rules to deal with the item immediately.
All in favor, opposed?
Aye. I'm going to move that the item be referred back with request of those items that I mentioned.
Just to make sure that we're all on the same page, that was to include more landscaping. What was the specific wording you'd like to use for the entranceway?
What I said.
More present.
A greater presence.
And then the garbage to be rolled to the front.
No, the garbage should be another alternative for the garbage to be found whereby the garbage is not on the front.
And so landscaping.
And
the
bicycle
entranceway.
parking
Bicycle parking, okay.
is totally inaccurate. I'd like to see more bicycle parking. I'd also like to see indoor bicycle storage that your client's not including. The client has to spend a little bit more time on his projects. You know, which is actually demanded of in every other city, by the way, compared to here. I know you might complain about our process and length of the time it takes, but I've been to other cities and I've seen what the level they demand on this sort of scrutiny, and it's a hell of a lot more than what we do. So you should consider yourself grateful in that sense. All right. I move that, Councilor Ronnie.
Motion's been heard. Any other comments? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay, that concludes delegations.
We've dealt with one item. Are we have any what's the next item? But I need time, ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna ask. Council body, if you wanna move, the clerk sent me apparently these resumes at the end of October. Unfortunately, I have a new assistant. They did not bring it to my assistant's attention that I needed to see these resumes. And so I'm kind of struggling now to have to review resumes on the fly, which I'm not impressed about. And, anyway, I need time, for item 2, but I'd like to place it after, we deal with the hearing if possible.
Okay, that's. So I'll move that, we can just skip over it for now, I think.
Yeah.
I'll get a motion.
Okay.
And same thing with number 1, or do you want to?
Sorry, I'm sorry I jumped around here. We got that, so the library, the same thing. I don't know if you had time. Have you read the resumes for number 1?
I have.
You have, it? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, there's 3 vacancies.
There's 3 vacancies and 2 applications.
Vanessa Pinto and Ashley Cedarwell.
490 medium. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't talk about that. One is for sure in the Elmwood East Godona ward. The
Right?
other one I think is probably North Godona, yes, so. I'm comfortable moving the 2 that are here, I think. Are you okay? with
Yep,
the Elmwood East Godona one?
they look like good applicants, lots of
Agreed.
diverse community involvement.
There's still 1 vacancy and nobody from the Transcona ward.
No, it
so
doesn't.
there's
I
still an
guess we
opportunity.
don't. Anyway, all right, all right.
I'll reserve comment.
Okay,
I'll move the 2 names that are here.
all right, very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. On this one, Council, if you could move that to be laid over or not laid over, but I dealt with,
The clerk says we can just.
No motion necessary, we can just go.
I'll go back to, okay. All right, so we'll jump over that one. We have, number 3, plan approval for Dr. Michael K. Grace Lane.
Yeah, there's it's a detached garage being proposed
Do
and,
we have a drawing or?
oh, yes, sir. Oh. It's just this garage here. It measures 12 feet by 20 feet.
What is this before us?
In the zoning agreement, it requires garages, the buildings to come to plan approval.
I see.
So we are recommending, in fact,
This is off the way.
yes.
Okay.
So we are recommending approval, but we're also requesting or recommending that the East Kildonan Transcona Community Committee grant a blanket approval. So for any application to establish a standalone conforming detached garage on the land zone RMFS.
What was the logic of us doing it originally in the first place?
I believe it was just in the zoning agreement, it was just taking account for plan approval for all buildings. So unfortunately, that does include garages. In this case, there weren't garages initially developed, so they're adding them later down the road. So we are requesting or recommending this blanket.
Well, first of all, it's not in color. We have a
No,
color
there
version.
were none,
Why not? I thought that's required.
not entirely.
What do you mean not entirely? It's either required or not.
It's their site plan, so they don't have color elevations or
Why was that not
color
required?
renderings.
That's my question. The department always required that. I'm gonna move that this matter be laid over, and also that if the department wants me to change a policy that we've approved as a community committee on an entire area, they should come with some wording for me to consider, okay? I'm not gonna start changing things on the fly, and I'd like to know the rational reason for it, and I'd like to know that in advance of hearing of it in the meeting. So, Councillor Emma Duran, what if you want to take the chair? I'm gonna move that this matter be laid over with the request that color drawings in the future be brought forward for all plan approvals, including this one. And that if the department wishes to bring a change in terms of the zoning agreement, it should be requesting that in advance in writing, of what the motion would look like and why, and present that rationale to this committee. Which I'm prepared to entertain, but I need to know that. So I'm not gonna move a motion to a zoning agreement on the fly.
So just to be clear, are we leaning over to the next meeting
Yeah,
for color elevations?
that and whatever wording they want in terms of the change of the zoning agreement, I just said. Okay,
I can elaborate on that, but.
no, we'll deal with it. I'm not gonna elaborate now and read it on the fly.
No problem.
Yeah, I want it in writing in advance for everybody on the committee to see. All right. All right, okay. I'll move that.
So I would call the question.
Yep.
Okay. All in favor,
Aye.
opposed, carried.
Okay, we dealt with item 4.
Correct.
155 Region Avenue West. Have we received from him any drawings regarding this? Have we have got any kind of color drawings produced that we can review as a committee?
Just, I can speak to this.
Yeah.
It was just the ones that were sent at the last meeting.
Yeah, but that were they were not produced in a way you could actually read.
I'll also note that one of the things that was desired at the last meeting was the consultation with the owner developers and yourself.
Yeah.
That hasn't happened yet, so they had reached out and requested that it be laid over.
I see. Okay, very good. Council Body, could you do that, please?
So moved.
All in favor? Both carried. Community fund transfer. Then we have.
This one is for the $5,000 for the 100th anniversary.
And this is the anniversary. Where's the application?
You want, I can-
Well, don't worry about it. If it's not printed for you. I'll lay this matter over to deal with after the meeting. After the hearing, so the clerk has time to print that. So moved. Or Council, Duran Wood, if you could move that for me. Thank you. All in favor, opposed, carried. Per capita grant, senior resource finder.
Same thing, I can put the application on.
Oh, we don't have that here. Okay. All right, we'll lay that one over as well. 6, 7, and 2, 6, and 7 we'll deal with at the end of the hearing, which we cannot call until 10:30. Okay, so Councilor Bawadi will move adjournment.
New business.
I do have new business, but I'm not ready to present it yet. So, thanks.
All right, we're recessed till 10:30.
Sure. Well, thank you.
I'll move to recess till 10:30.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'd like to welcome you back to the East Kelowna Transcona Community Committee meeting. We're in the public hearing portion of our agenda. Yeah, acknowledgement here. Acknowledgement. I wish to thank and acknowledge the great creator who gave us Mother Earth, creating the heavens above and the beautiful land and bountiful seas we refer to as time as planet Earth, a gift which we are quickly destroying largely from human greed and our unwillingness to share in the creator's gifts. I would like to also acknowledge that we're on Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe Cree, Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Innu Cree, and the Dakota peoples, and the national homeland of the River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 2 territory. We will have, I get the clerk to read the item into the agenda, please.
In accordance with the City of Winnipeg Charter and the Development Procedures Bylaw, the process the committee will follow is the applicant will be heard first, followed by those in support of the application. Next, those registered in opposition are heard, followed by those registered for information. Finally, the applicant may return to speak in rebuttal to comments made. However, no new information is permitted. Please note that when your name is called, it's your opportunity to speak. However, you are not obligated to do so. For a more in-depth overview of the public hearing process and other information pertaining to what happens before, during, and after a public hearing, please consult the City Clerk's Department website. Please note that all public hearings are recorded and will be a part of the public record. Should you have any questions after the hearings have concluded, please contact the City Clerk's Department. Item 1 is the subdivision and rezoning at 545-569 Watt Street under file DASZ 40/2025. Please note communications were received in support of the matter, which have been distributed to all members of the committee. The process the committee will follow is the applicant will be heard first, followed by those in support of the application, those registered in opposition, and those registered for information. The applicant may return to speak in rebuttal to comments made. However, no new information is permitted. Speakers will be permitted 5 minutes for their presentations. All participants on Zoom have been muted and will only be permitted to speak when called upon. This time I'll turn it over to the planner for a brief overview.
So the subject property is located on Watt Street between Trent Avenue and Monroe Avenue in the Monroe West neighborhood of the Elmwood East Kildonan Ward. Back in September of 2024, council concurred as amended in the recommendation of the Standing Policy Committee on Property and Development and adopted the following: that the city-owned properties at 545 to 569 Watt Street be declared surplus for affordable housing. So the applicant is the city, and the proposal is to subdivide and rezone the subject properties as follows. So on proposed lot 1, which is at 545 Watt Street, so the lot to the south, it has a lot area of 1 acre. It's proposed to be rezoned from R1S to CMU, Commercial Mixed Use District. And the current leaseholder is the Elmwood Community Resource Center, and they're looking to develop a mixed-use neighborhood hub with residential, offices, and community-oriented services. The project will also offer approximately 100 dwelling units and about 41 affordable dwelling units. The project will include drop-in space, offices, and expanded programming for counseling and potential child minding. And the primary approach will be off the paved lane. And then for proposed lot 2, which is from 565 to 569 Watt Street, so just a lot to the north, has a lot area of 2.28 acres. It's proposed to be rezoned from R1S to RMFL, so residential multifamily large district. Future Mark Development will lead the development of a multifamily development here. Project will offer about 250 mixed income dwelling units, including about 74 affordable dwelling units. And the main vehicular approach will be from Watt Street, and a portion of parking will be provided off the paved lane. The letter of intent states the city will transfer the land to the selected developers pending approval of this application. In terms of policy alignment, the application is consistent with our Winnipeg 2045 and Complete Communities Direction Strategy 2.0. So under our Winnipeg, the proposal meets policies related to affordable and supportive housing options, namely, it enables collaborative partnerships that provide a continuum of existing or new affordable housing. It conserves and increases development of a continuum of affordable and supportive housing throughout the city as a fundamental human right, and it facilitates affordable and supportive housing in all neighborhoods. Again, through a continuum of private and nonprofit housing development that includes a mix of sizes, forms, and tenures. And then under CCDS 2.0, the proposal meets mature communities policies. Namely, the proposal increases the population within established neighborhoods to align with the city's residential intensification target. The developments also provides a diversity of housing types, tenures, and incorporates affordable housing. And the proposed developments provides uses to meet community needs. So the Public Service recommends approval with conditions of the subdivision and rezoning application. The recommended conditions on the DASZ application include limiting the height to a 45-degree angular plane, and this is measured from the residential properties to the north. And as a note, plan approval was already a condition of the council's approval to the previously mentioned amendments in support of affordable housing. Overall, we support the proposal for the following reason. The application incorporates supportable housing and community services within a mature community, and it's located in a pedestrian transit and active transportation friendly residential neighborhood. And the proposed developments provide socially equitable, good health and well-being supports to those in greatest need. That concludes my summary. Answer my questions.
Any questions? Start.
Can you just speak a little bit up the kind of, you mentioned this 45-degree angular plane, what's the reasoning or benefit of that?
Sure. So in terms of like the 45-degree angular plane, that's in respect to sites that abut or are across a laneway. So from the rear lot to the homes to the north, we're looking for a 45-degree angular plane, and this just helps to make sure that the future development to that north side, lot 2, is compatible with the single family low density residential to the north there.
So that's sort of to be more sensitive to the context of the surrounding area.
Yeah, we use this for other types of projects too. Namely, it's also now part of our malls and corridors PDO that that image I supplied there. So we've been using that analysis as well to determine building heights, mostly for compatibility, but just to help out with the massing in. Typically, you would have like a building setback as it moves further away from the R single family homes.
Any other questions? Okay, see none, we'll hear from the applicant. Councillor Duran, would you like to move 10 minutes to allow the applicant to speak? Okay, all in favor, opposed, carried. Karen.
Okay, so I'll call forward our applicant, Alyssa Rappaport, joined with Mike Lennon. As stated, you've been given the 5-minute extension already, so you have 10 minutes to make your presentation after you state your name. And I'll just get you to hit share screen and share your presentation so it can also be viewed on the screen.
Great. Thank you. Good morning, Chair and councillors. Thank you for having us today. We're excited to represent this application on behalf of the City of Winnipeg through the Housing Accelerator Fund Land Enhancement Office. As mentioned, my name is Alyssa or Lissy Rappaport, manager of the Housing Accelerator Fund, and I'm joined by Mike Lennon, who is our Housing Accelerator Fund Program Support Specialist. So as administration presented this morning, we're bringing forward an application for subdivision and rezoning for the properties you see on the screen here. The intention is that the city will facilitate the sale of these lands. We had an expression of interest that we released earlier this year for the northern parcel and have identified a proponent to develop it. And the southern parcel will be developed by the Elmwood Community Resource Center, who's the current tenant on that property. So why have we chosen this site for the development and why is the city leading this? So this is, as I mentioned, under our Land Enhancement Office, which is a new program we've developed under the Housing Accelerator Fund. Council identified 545 to 569 Watt Street as a priority site for affordable housing in September 2024, along with a number of other sites. The location is really just an underutilized city asset. So we had community services here and the ECRC is a current tenant running a community resource center here. And it's a large site that could accommodate a number of uses, as administration spoke to, social, community spaces, as well as housing. The location is ideal for residential. There's a number of existing small-scale residential as well as high-rise buildings in the vicinity, access to transit, employment. There's a school right adjacent. There's a variety of uses, and it's a walkable community. So just very briefly, I'm sure many are familiar, but the Housing Accelerator Fund was a national program that the city was approved for in December 2023. The goal is to create more housing faster. And so we put forward a council-approved action plan on how we would do that. And one of the initiatives under that action plan was the development of this Land Enhancement Office. And so that's really a way to look at where we have city lands that could be used for housing and for the city to play a more active role in facilitating affordable housing, mixed income housing, and supportive and transitional housing. This project Watt Street will have essentially all of those uses. ECRC is focusing on supportive and transitional housing, and the other site is focusing on mixed income housing. The goal under HAF is to create 14,000 units by December 2026, and this project will help us achieve that goal. So I'll mention briefly the policy context, although administration spoke to this. It really aligns with, a number of our guiding policies as it relates to housing, intensification, climate action plan, creating more mixed use, walkable neighborhoods, higher density housing. The site context, so it's a large site, it's over 3 acres, and it can accommodate multiple units and multiple uses. It's located on a collector street with nearby retail and other uses. I mentioned the school, places of worship, stores, and in particular, very close proximity to employment lands. Immediately south of the site is a 125-unit multifamily residence and access to multiple bus routes. So why have we chosen this site? So there was plans for community services, which was using a portion of the site as storage to move out of that site. I think the plans were originally for 2024. And so this site was about to be half empty, and so we looked at it as a clear opportunity for both housing development and economic development to stimulate the tax base and to see more development on the property. So we are going to be supporting two particular housing projects, as I mentioned on this site, subject to the approval of the subdivision and rezoning. At least 30% affordable units on each site, a high degree of social impact and community impact. In particular, ECRC, who you will hear from, I believe, through delegation, will speak to their role in the community. Their placement at that site specifically was really advocated by the former and late Councillor Schreier, and he was a real advocate of the group, and in particular to see the redevelopment of this site. The design of the buildings, which will come forward later, will accommodate the surrounding land uses. So the partners that we've chosen to work with the city on these sites, the northern portion will be transferred subject to the approval of the subdivision rezoning to Future Mark Development. So they'll lead to the development of 565 to 569 Watt Street. They'll design the building, lead any specific applications as required to move that development forward, including specifically the plan approval that will come back to Community Committee. They're working with Landmark Planning, a planning firm. They have an identified architect, 546 or Barcode as they're known. And they were selected through our expression of interest process earlier this year. The Elmwood Community Resource Center will develop the southern portion where they are currently a tenant. They run a number of programs for the community, including housing supports, counseling supports, supports for women escaping gender-based violence, employment and education supports for newcomers, childminding, a variety of programs that they will able to expand with this development, and in particular provide up to 100 units of housing, affordable and supportive housing. They're being supported by Anuka, a nonprofit housing developer, and a variety of consultants, including an architect who is identified. And they were selected through a direct agreement as they're an existing tenant on the site with plans and experience to build and develop housing, and as advocated by as I mentioned, the former late Councillor Schreier. So we held some engagement sessions that, I apologize, the date on the slide is today's date. It was actually on November 10th. At the adjacent school near the site. It was a chance for community members to come and meet the community and learn about the developments that are being proposed by our partners. It was attended by at least, I think it was about 20 local residents. We worked with the Office of Public Engagement to advertise. We dropped letters in surrounding homes. We put large signage up on the site, emails to schools and nearby community and faith-based organizations. The ECRC has also had their own stakeholder engagement. They've been developing this vision for some time, and then more recently has done a series of workshops, 8 workshops to be specific, and door-to-door engagement reaching over 250 individuals over the last year or two. So the zoning that we're proposing on the southern portion would be the CMU, commercial mixed use, and on the northern portion, RMFL, multifamily large, to accommodate the proposed developments. I mentioned Future Mark would be leading the northern portion. So there was already discussion on the administration's recommendation on the angular plane. So we would see probably up to 8 stories as a maximum, approximately 250 units, including 74 affordable units. This portion is approximately 2 acres and the existing buildings will be demolished. And then on the southern portion, the ECRC project with Anuka will create up to 100 residential units, including 41 affordable, looking at approximately 6 to 7 stories, and it will include a number of community spaces, drop-in offices, community support programs, expanded programming for counseling and childminding. And again, the existing building, which ECRC is a current tenant in, will be demolished for the development. So just very quickly, some neighborhood context. So immediately south of the site is a 15-story residential building built in approximately the late mid-70s. RMFL immediately adjacent. Nearby a little bit to the north is a 3-story RMFS building with 22 units of housing. And then just north of that, a similar size building, 20 units, 3 stories. So you can see the subject property here is really across the street from employment land, so that allows access to jobs, training within walking distance, which is a key element of ECRC's programming. So very quickly, building design, with this rezoning and subdivision application, the city is taking the lead on preparing the land and the zoning approval, subject to council's approval. And the developers will lead the design moving forward for the buildings. So we'll be looking at the greatest height towards the middle and south, adjacent to that 15-story multifamily building, further away, as Choi mentioned, from the single detached on the north side. There'll be a positive addition at street level, improving pedestrian experience. These building designs will come back to community committee for approval. I think Choi mentioned the parking and vehicular access, and I'll just mention quickly, along Watt, the boulevard will be restored with a sidewalk, so the existing parking fronting that street will be chain moved. And I think that
10
is
minutes.
it.
Normally, they only give 5 at other committees. We give everybody here, we're trying to do, at least we'll have the chair give 10.
Great.
Because you're the applicant and you've paid for this. Are there any other questions? Do you need more time?
Nope, this is
Sure.
my last slide.
Okay. Are there any questions at this time by the committee? I have some questions. Oh, sorry, Councillor Drenmer, I apologize.
Can you just go back to the previous slide for a moment? Sorry, one more. Yeah, sorry, could you repeat what you were mentioning about the boulevard and the sidewalk?
Yeah, so I'll actually use this map, which I quickly scanned over at the end. So you can see here, so this is the west side, this is Watt Street here. So this is existing parking in front of these buildings. So you can kind of see a little visual here. The boulevard will be restored, so you can see the continuation of this sidewalk along Watt Street.
I have some questions. What authority was granted the department to be acting as leasee, acting on behalf of the development here? What motion was done to do that?
Can you rephrase the
My
question?
question is, what motion was passed by council on this specific property to give the authority to the department to act as the applicant?
I don't think the city needs authority to act as the applicant, but council approved this site as part of the land enhancement priority sites for affordable housing on September 26, 2024. The approval was delegated to the CAO to be able to approve these sites following council's approval and to move them forward, and the city is leading the application.
Do you believe that's consistent with the real estate audit done in 2000 that recommended that all sites with the city, if we're entering into any kind of joint agreement with a partner, a third party, which this is doing, had to go specifically for council approval because it overrides public policy or policies that we should be following in a real estate firm? Why did that not occur?
Council amended the real estate policy in July of 2024 to allow the direct transfer of lands for affordable housing.
Which is contrary to what an audit has said.
I'm not familiar with the audit from 2000. I followed the existing real estate policy as it's been enacted and approved by council today.
You might want to check that out.
Sure.
Number one. Number two, why is it that the Granite was told that they cannot act in coordination with the city as a developer, but here the leasee is doing that? Who makes those decisions?
I'm not going to speak to another application, but I'll speak specifically to this one, and is the question why ECRC was chosen to develop the southern portion? Is that the question?
Well, the leaser on the land, yeah.
Yeah. So ECRC, I mentioned, they've been doing engagement on this vision since 2023. And actually, it's really been before that time. They've been looking at the redevelopment of this site to develop mixed income, mixed use property. They already provide housing resources to the community. And when this site was identified by council, it was actually, I mentioned the late Councillor Schreier, who really advocated for the transfer of this land directly to ECRC. He was also the one who originally advocated for them to become a leasee and a tenant on the site as their programming expanded over the last number of years and they needed more space. It was really under the direction of his.
Here you, but we also had an audit that councillors basically generated because of their own internal activity at the time, ordered by the mayor of the day, who wrapped the hands of council for being directly involved in land negotiations. I'm not saying that the former counselor did, or whatever do. But I'm saying that then it was incumbent on the administration to basically say, well, we have to go to council with a report to say that we're gonna sole source the lease here. That did not occur.
As I mentioned, the real estate policy allows the city to sole source to a
estate
provider
policy
for the
can-
development of affordable housing.
The real estate policy I would contend, sorry for interrupting, I would contend is in violation of an audit that was given by to the city over 2 decades ago.
Yeah, I can't speak to that.
Yeah, I think it's something the department should look into, and I have raised this with the department before.
Sure, you can raise it to
Yeah,
administration this morning.
I get it. Other than to say that we've delegated the authority to the CAO, we cannot delegate the authority, to my knowledge, to the CAO to override what we shouldn't be doing, what an audit recommendation is. Right? The reason why the auditor gave us an independent report was to say this should be the policy. We've now said, thank you, we're not making that the policy. And I don't think council was informed of that either. But I could be wrong.
I can't speak to the follow-up from an audit from the year 2000, but perhaps administration can when they speak.
Okay, well, that's true. I mean, it has, and I think it's very important that this research is done correctly, probably, because it may have legal ramifications on another matter that I raised. So, I want to know, we're talking here a total of 350 units, basically, correct? And of the 350 units, there are 115 that are affordable. Why is such a small amount being dedicated to affordable housing?
I think it's actually a pretty big amount, 115 units.
Well, if you got 350 units, I'm talking about Councillor Schreier's father. In the late 1970s, they were rolling out 7,000 units a year of affordable housing. We can't even build 700 a year. They're rolling out 7,000 a year.
Mhm.
How is it that we're only getting out of this 150 on public land, 150 affordable housing units, when we could be actually getting 350?
Yeah, the model of developing affordable housing has changed over the last number of decades. So certainly in the 1970s, the government was leading full rent geared to income social housing projects. That's happening to a lesser extent now, primarily because of the federal government focusing funding on mixed income projects. And part of the reason they've done that is to make these projects more economically sustainable. So the mixed income approach allows the market units to help subsidize the lower rent units, affordable units. It also allows for long-term sustainability. So a lot of the units that were developed in the 1970s are now coming out off of operating agreements. And many of these projects are closing because they don't have the operating funds to sustain themselves.
Basically, what you're saying is the decision has been made either by the provincial or federal governments to cut funding, to socialize housing. They're kicking people out of affordable housing. That's what you're telling me.
I'm saying that
Basically what you just said.
I mean, yeah, it's no joke that the government has reduced its spending on housing relative to the cost of building housing today. I'm not going to deny that, but the approach overall has changed across the world, I would say, to see more mixed income communities. And that's to support the economic operations, but also to support mixed income neighborhoods.
You say the housing crisis today is as acute as it was in the 1970s, if not worse?
I think it's much worse.
Yeah, so why are we not seeing a more activist agenda when it comes to government and their intervention?
I'm just here to represent the city on one project trying to build 100 units of affordable housing. I can't speak to higher levels of government.
No, but I think it's a very interesting question, isn't it? Because we claim that we're doing more, but we're actually doing less, even though the crisis is greater. So I guess it really comes down to why can't we get 100 to 350 units here instead of 115 affordable housing units?
Well, the proposal that we put forward as a city to identify these parcels is to look at making sure the projects can also get built. So the city is providing land through this exchange, but the entities will still have to go to financing and funding to other levels of government, in particular the ECRC project, which is a nonprofit. So if they did full affordable housing, it's unlikely to necessarily have the economics to be able to support the development. But I do know they are aiming for a minimum of 40% affordable units and may be able to get more depending on the funding that is available. And maybe ECRC, who I think is also going to speak in delegation, can respond to that as well.
Affordable units, how long are they affordable?
Typically funding is for 20 years.
So just to be clear then, we're not only building 350 units. Out of the 350, we're building only 115 affordable. And they're only guaranteed their affordability for 20 years. After that, they can go to the market.
They can, yep.
Just to be clear on what we're approving here and public money we're dedicating. So which indirectly we're doing it at this hearing, I guess the question I have then is what is your definition of affordability on this?
We follow the CMHC definition of affordability, which is at least 79% of the median market rent for the area, which I do believe I have in front of me. I think it's like for a 1-bedroom, it's about 800. I didn't print that one off actually. So citywide, it's about 850. I think it's a little bit lower in this neighborhood. We could provide that perhaps in the rebuttal when I have a chance to look it up.
And I guess the question I have, so $850 for a 1-bedroom unit. Well, so where did the number of 79% come from?
Federal government,
And who is the federal government?
CMHC, Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation.
National, they use 79%. Is that 79% of Manitoba mid-market rent?
It's the median market rent for the area of Winnipeg. So they break Winnipeg down into, I think it's about 14 zones. So they look at the particular zone this one is within.
So what is the cost of each unit?
I'll have to double check that for you and maybe even.
How we could say it's affordable if you don't know the numbers.
I can tell you that it will be in the agreement with the proponents. I don't have the exact value in front of me right now.
Here you're talking about affordability, this committee should know.
It's around $850.
Around doesn't work. I'd like to know what it is. How many units are of the 115? How many are 1-bedroom units?
That has not been determined yet. So the developers will be finalizing their designs subject to the approval of the subdivision and rezoning of council. And that will lay out the number of 1-bedroom, studio, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, et cetera, in the final design.
So you envision how many different types of units? You have 1-bedrooms?
It could be any combination of any unit size.
Okay, so 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, studios, 3-bedrooms?
Mm-hmm.
That's a yes?
Yes. And you could probably ask the proponents themselves, who I think already have an idea of the unit mix they might see.
I guess, I don't know how I could put this, but don't you think it sounds maybe somewhat disingenuous when you come to the committee, you say that we're doing 115 units of affordable housing, but we can't be told how many units that actually works out to in terms of 1 or 2 or 3-bedroom or studios. And that we don't have the numbers exactly of what that rent looks like, other than to be told that 79% of mid-market rents based on the city of Winnipeg in this neighborhood.
Yeah, so I have the rent here. So the affordable rent within the area is $874 per month. That's on average.
Well, what type of unit?
So that is for all units from a studio through a 3-bedroom. So that's the average. I will also say to the first part of your question there, this is a rezoning and subdivision application. Typically, that doesn't necessarily govern the size of the unit.
Oh, they have, not at this committee, but others have.
Yeah, and that can come back to this community committee
think
at
Miguel has.
plan approval. Well, there'll be a lot more details.
Yeah, Real has. So $74 a month is the average,
Yes.
but we don't have a breakdown yet.
No. The ECRC project will also include some rent geared to income units as well. They have a notional commitment from the province to be supporting this project. That will depend also on the final design of the building.
Why are we not just simply saying here that we are going to charge basically what has been known and is accepted as the national standard that no citizen should pay more than 30% of their gross in rent in terms of their income, which is a standard used by other agencies like the Winnipeg Housing Agency. Why can we not simply do that?
The city doesn't control or have oversight over social housing,
Yes,
so
we
that's
do.
a provincial responsibility.
No, it's our land. It's our land. We could demand things if we wanted to.
We could demand it. As I mentioned before, the economic feasibility of the project to move forward, would be undetermined at that point.
That-
We also want to make
That's
sure.
Very subjective. The economic feasibility, that's extremely subjective.
Certainly, but all we're able to do as a city at this point is put forward our best foot forward for creating affordable units while also stimulating housing development generally. So I think the development of market units in our city is also really critical to addressing housing supply. So in Winnipeg, the housing needs are certainly concentrated in the lowest income communities, but the overall supply really helps to maintain the middle income level of affordability. So the issues are connected.
We say the statement that we have to also be part of supplying the market as well, and that's important, which I agree, in the event that there's a shortage. But where are you getting your data that there is a shortfall in this in our community with regarding market housing and construction of market housing?
I didn't say there was a shortfall of housing. I said the development of market housing is connected to affordability, and in particular, the provision of middle income housing.
How is it connected?
Pardon?
How is it connected?
So middle income earners in Winnipeg, I mean, we actually have our housing needs assessment as a city coming out within the next couple weeks, and you can read more details on this, but middle income Winnipeggers are being served by the market right now. We have, a more affordable home ownership and rental housing compared to other cities in Canada, compared to median income here in Winnipeg. Most people who earn a median income can afford to rent a market apartment.
We'll just take that question from a different angle or a response you gave. But basically, the other way of looking at it is basically you're saying the market is responding, but the issue that exists in the housing sector today with many people in our city is at the lower end, not the middle end
Yes.
or the higher end, is at the lower end.
Yes.
Which I guess is why I'm saying if the issue is at the lower end, why are we having basically, I don't know, 40% or thereabouts of the entire project being dedicated to people assisting them at the lower end of the income scale? Why is such a small percentage of an entire project on land that we own publicly and that we can leverage greater affordability in terms of both the unit prices and the number of units? Why is that not happening when you've just indicated that the crisis taking place out there right now is the inability for people at the lower end of the market to afford rent?
I think I've already answered that question. It's about the operational feasibility of projects.
And I've said that's very subjective and you've agreed, which is
Sure.
true. I guess I'd like to know, finally, I'd like to know if the market is responding, if people are able to get rents through the market, why are we participating in supplying more market housing? The market's working.
The market is working, but the whole goal of the Housing Accelerator Fund is to get more housing units built quicker so that affordability issues do not expand and worsen in our city. 5-10 years ago, we probably wouldn't have had average Winnipeggers saying we had an affordability issue here in Winnipeg. That is not the case today. And that issue will worsen if we don't accelerate housing, as it has been occurring in Toronto, Vancouver, and other Canadian cities.
I guess my other question is, ultimately, we have as a city, for the last 20-25 years, thought that if we put as much land out as possible, we flood the market, in theory, supply should exceed demand. If you look at any first year of economics, when supply exceeds demand, prices stabilize. Matter of fact, prices actually fall. But what has been demonstrated across the country for the last 20 or 25 years is the exact opposite occurs in the real estate market. Do you recognize that?
No, I would disagree. I think if you look at any of the charts in Canada, supply has not kept up with demand. And if you look at Winnipeg's most recent population projection, you can see the chart of demand is way up here and the supply is here.
I would disagree with you if you look statistically at it over the last 25
Sure.
years and you look at the population growth and you look at the supply we put out. We've exceeded at times, but why is it that the pricing of housing continues to rise at an extraordinary rate, far beyond the rate of inflation? When we have, as a city, made a point of rezoning areas the size of Brandon. But yet, prices have not stabilized. It actually fed a machine that actually caused a feeding frenzy and drove up prices even higher. Any thoughts on that?
It's a little outside the scope of this application. We're trying to get
No, we're talking
300
about
units
housing.
and 115 units of affordable housing built. Any new units of housing and new units of affordable housing will address the housing crisis we are seeing in our city today
I disagree.
across the spectrum. we could maybe go for a coffee and talk macroeconomics at a
No,
later
maybe-
stage, but I don't have a ton of detail on, you know, all the components that go into the cost of housing. I think what's really critical is that as a city, we are supporting nonprofit and private developers to be able to provide housing for our
And I
community.
appreciate you would I maybe think this is not pertinent to the application, but I disagree. And number two, I think that we've not had an opportunity as a council to have an open discussion on these issues that we should have in light of the crisis we're now facing.
Sure.
And then the one few chances we do have an opportunity is in meetings like this.
Mhm.
And so I guess would you agree with this statement that in light of the fact that, you know, municipal jurisdiction after municipal jurisdiction, including Winnipeg, especially Winnipeg, has flooded the market with for market housing. In light of the fact that that has not stabilized pricing, even at times when we exceeded demand. That really at the heart of it here is the fact that unlike any other jurisdiction that faces these issues, we have not stepped up in terms of flooding the market in kind with affordable housing. That would, in a sense, and true affordable housing. I mean, I'm talking affordable housing where it's rent geared to income and it's stable, and then they're not going to get kicked out in 20 years or those units are going to be lost. But until we do that, we will never stabilize prices in the private sector.
I think the flooding of new non-market rent geared to income, deeply affordable housing is critical for our city.
Thank you.
Yes.
And so, to my point on that, but to my point on that, that is really the key. That's the only thing that is going to stabilize the for market community or the for market community that's driving prices up. In light of the fact that every city in this country likes to deal with a handful of developers who have single-handedly driven up the price of land and the servicing.
I would disagree with that statement. As I mentioned, the two sides are connected. But
Yeah.
right now, as affordability issues are growing for middle income Winnipeggers, they are relying on these affordable units when they may have the income to rent in the private market. But the vacancy rate in the private market right now is below 2%. I think it's even probably closer to 1%. There's not enough units out there.
That has been the case in Winnipeg for a long time.
No, it's not. The
No,
vacancy rate previously was at 5%.
No, it's been the case. We've had a low.
Okay.
I'm going over 20, 30 years. You may be going
Okay,
the last
20,
10.
30 years ago, perhaps, yeah.
No, and the period of time, how often it's been the case.
Mhm.
But anyway, we live in a very sad country today when the people who want to get into the market, the average age now, do you know what the average age of a person who acquires a mortgage in this country?
I do not.
42. Basically now you're pushing the envelope, but they'll never pay the mortgage off before they retire, forget about death. But anyway, okay, I don't have any questions at this time. Anybody else? No? Thank you for the discussion. Let's
Thank you.
move on to the next delegation.
Our next speaker is joining us via Zoom, Alex Boersma. If you'd like to unmute your mic and turn on your camera, you'll have 5 minutes to make your presentation after you state your name.
Hey guys, I'm Alex Boersma, and I represent Future Mark Development on the North site. So thanks I just want to say I'm in support of this zoning, and thanks for the opportunity to work with the city and also the Elmwood Community Renewal Corp with the South site. We're coordinating or attempting to, assuming this zoning goes through, to provide additional supportive housing or affordable housing in the neighborhood that is sustainable for a long time to come. So that's kind of all I have. I just wanted to introduce myself and say thank you for the opportunity more than anything else.
And who are you with?
Future Mark Development.
And what do you do?
We're the chosen proponent for the North parcel.
I see. And Landmark is involved in this too, or?
Yeah, we work with Landmark to do our community engagement so that our developments are, like, we try to work with the neighborhood and develop in a way that is helpful, frankly, with the neighbors' needs.
I just have a question. You know, I guess, you know, I'm very cognizant. I also sit on the standing committee of property development. And I'm cognizant of the resources or lack thereof within the planning department. I'm wondering why the planning department is making this application and going to the expense and time and staffing and everything on this when This could probably, the site also that they're speaking on, could also have been consolidated and you could have been the entire applicant on the whole thing. Was that offered to you?
The whole site?
Yeah.
No, we didn't apply for the whole site. The
Was that
expression.
was that offered as a potential scenario because you're a private sector partner already on the site and the city has delegated part of the authority over to you to make an application on it? Was the authority?
We have no authority. I'm just speaking in support. This is not my application. So,
Okay.
assuming the rezoning happens, then if we go ahead, then we'll have our own application with our own development in the future.
Oh, I see. Okay, all right. And and who owns the land that you're representing?
The city owns this land.
No, so that's my point.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I thought that was the key. Any other questions? No? Okay. Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker in support of the application is Donovan Taves. Not seeing Donovan in
He
the
was
gallery.
here. I saw.
Other.
Always Charlie.
Okay.
Yeah.
In that case, at this time, we'll move on to Nina Kondo. Nina, let's come forward. 5 minutes to make a presentation after you state your name. Yep, just at the front there. You can have a seat.
Thank you. My name is Nina Kondo. I am the Executive Director of Elmwood Community Resource Center. Elmwood Community Resource Center is a nonprofit organization. We're a family resource center in the community since 2001. We have been providing services from counseling services, mental health, gender-based violence program, after-school program. Initially, we started at one of the city-owned buildings, 75 Brazier Street. Soon after that, we've outgrown that space. We currently have 3 locations and 4 satellite locations. So we started with a team of 5. Now we have a team of 42 plus staff members. Out of those 42 staff members, 70% of the staff live in the community, and they also represent the community that we serve. With this application, we would like to provide not only consolidating all our 5 locations under one roof, but also expanding the services that we're offering by adding 100 units of housing, mixed-use housing, that will have 40% of affordable housing. Out of those 30 units will be social housing, as well as 20 of those units will be for those who are fleeing gender-based violence. Within the building, we would like to offer the wraparound support that we are currently offering by expanding to the resident and those who will be living in their apartments. By expanding our counseling services, we offer employment. We offer employment for both youth and adult. We offer elder teaching, culture teaching that includes indigenous teaching as well as newcomer ethnoculture teaching. We work closely with all the local schools and local partners to ensure that we are collaborating in addressing the needs of the community. With the support of late Councillor Schreier, we were looking for expanding and building, having a space that will really be conducive to the service that we offer. For the last 10 years, we've been looking for the right location for the space. And Councillor Schreier was very keen and advocating for the center to move to the location that we are in, that we're leasing, and then later on has been supporting us in ensuring that we can move forward with this project. So since 2022, we've started doing some community engagement. We had over 250 community member that we spoke with who are in support of the project. We were able to secure 150 signature in support of the project. Right now in the gallery, we have community members, but also local partners who are in support coming forward to speak on behalf of the project. And we are hoping to, with this application, if we move forward, we'll be able to continue to provide the services that is much needed in the community. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you for all the work you do, number one. And you were coming and speaking with us today. And as somebody who's a strong advocate and has been for many years for affordable housing. And I'm not speaking regarding your application specifically, actually, I just want to thank you for the work you do. And I guess the concern that I have as a member of council, but also somebody who has been involved in this issue, but also in terms of the overall public policy of affordable housing, that's not just happening here, but across the country. And what you heard earlier was a discussion about, and it's referred to as deep affordability, deep market rent affordability. In other words, the crisis that we see happening out there today is in Winnipeg, more or less, not so much in other jurisdictions where the crisis is affecting others, in even the middle income areas. But it's folks who have moderate incomes to lower incomes, who are struggling to find quality housing, dignified housing that is deeply affordable. In other words, and what has been described as deeply affordable is 30% of your gross income. Should not go anything more than that to basically what we call rent geared to income, RGI. And I guess the frustration I have here is that, and I'd just like your thoughts on it. I mean, do you believe, I guess, that really government should be addressing the crisis head on in terms of, having the courage to say we have a housing crisis occurring, the biggest crisis that we've seen in years. It's affecting one group or basically a group in our community who are at the lower income levels of our society. And therefore, we should be building housing that they can actually live in and afford. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that. As a nonprofit leader,
Yeah.
of course, I will plead on this council also to support the funding and support of the affordable housing and deep RGI units.
Right.
With this project, we've been so lucky so far to secure all level of government as an initial part of the funding to move forward if the project gets approved. We are hoping to have out of those 40 units, 30 of them to be social housing.
So this is separate from the 350 that we heard earlier. Was that included?
We included in the 100
Okay,
units.
so
yes.
you're okay. So that 115 units of those 40 are the ones you're targeting.
So we are building 100 units. Out of the 100 units, 40% of those units will be affordable housing and 30 of those will be social housing.
Okay, so this is separate from the 350 that we heard earlier.
It's within the 350.
Oh, it is with it. Okay, now I'm confused.
Those were two separate
The
applicants.
numbers, pardon me?
We're two separate applicants,
Okay, so your project is total how many units?
100 units,
100 units.
correct.
And of those,
Of those, 30 will be social housing.
okay, 30 units, now what do you describe as social housing?
I'll invite my developer to come and speak.
If you're coming to speak, if I could just get you to fill out one of the forms, you can do it afterwards, that's fine.
Okay.
For sure, come on up, thank you. And what is your name of your project? Or do you have just an address right now?
Myself,
No, what is the
Oh,
name of the project? Do you have an address?
Inuka.
Nuka, okay.
Thank you so much. So could you please?
Yeah,
give
so
us, Councillor?
you're building 100 units,
Yes,
of which 30 units are considered social housing. And what would be that description if you don't mind?
so social housing units are particularly for folks who are potentially receiving social assistance.
Okay,
So those are folks that in terms of housing, for a single person, you're looking at about rents of about 285 is maybe what they can afford.
so is that RGI? Is that an RGI basis that they're paying?
Correct, yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
so that's based on RGI, all right, which is 30% gross of their income typically. And then, okay, and the rest, the other 70 units,
And an additional 20
okay?
will be affordable rent for those who are fleeing gender-based violence.
Affordable, okay, for the gender-based violence, and how does that affordability determine?
so we'll, and I just want to kind of paint the picture of a pie. So think about a pie. There's 100 units in that pie. Take out a portion, and those are 40 units that are going to be affordable.
30
So-
of them.
The
30.
pie is 100 units,
Uh-huh.
and then the small section that I've just taken out,
40?
40 units.
Okay, I'm confused again. So we 30, and then I heard a number 20.
Okay, That's what I want to clarify, so walk
Okay.
with me. So 100 units is the pie,
Okay,
cut out 40% of that pie, so you have 40
4
units.
units.
So within that 40 units, we have 30 social housing units.
Of the 40,
Yes,
30 are social, so what's the other 10?
the other 10 are affordable rents,
Okay,
similar to what we were talking about earlier. So those will be the CMHC 79% MMR,
right, okay.
correct?
And this is sitting on land you own?
This is the city,
City land, okay.
535 Watt Street,
575,
545.
sorry, 545 Watt Street, thank
Yeah.
you, city land. And, okay, and then how long, is the term, the RGI units, the 30 units of social housing, is that indefinite? Is that contract indefinite?
The commitments are for 20 years with the funding partners.
Okay,
Obviously, as a nonprofit, the intent is to continue to support individuals, but those are, decisions that are going to be made later, depending on, after the 20-year commitment, what mortgage is left in the building and all of those pieces.
and then the building, let's say in the event governments in the future say, we're not gonna renew those contracts, it'll all become market housing, including possibly the 10 gender-based violence ones. I highly doubt it, but let's say that were the case. What would happen to those units?
Well, as a nonprofit, we'll continue to fundraise and ensure that we continue to provide those services to those.
But let's say the funding's not there by government, required to subsidize those units.
So ECRC is actually an organization that's been working in the community for a long time and has the ability to fundraise. Nina, what's your annual?
I hear you, but I'm asking a hypothetical question, like, it's very expensive to raise, right, money for housing.
It is. Our annual budget currently is at almost 4 million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we do work not just in government, but also private sector. So we have private investors who also support the work that we do.
But in theory, if in the event that government is not there to fund all of it or part of it only in the future, technically those units would revert to market housing.
But the intent is for sure that as a nonprofit to keep those units affordable.
And we know that Elmwood has a population of working low income families.
Who is the individual now, out of the 70 units, or the balance of the units, the 70 units, I guess? Who is the developer or who's the manager? Who's the owner gonna be?
The owner is
Will
the
be
nonprofit, Elmwood.
It is you.
Community
Okay,
If this application goes through.
okay. And that's, how do you spell your organization's name?
Elmwood Community Resource
Oh,
Center,
no, but the name of the housing project, I'm sorry. What are you calling it?
Inuka,
How do you spell it?
INU.
Elmwood. The name of the project you're asking?
Yeah.
Elmwood Project Hub. Elmwood Hub Project. Elmwood Hub Project.
Elmwood House?
Hub.
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 I'm sorry.
And the-
Elmwood Hub Project.
Hub.
Yeah,
project.
HUB.
Yes.
Hub.
And the concept is all of the support services will be in that building and then the housing units are there. So it
So
will be
the-
a hub.
INUK is a part of that.
That is the developer.
INUK is the name, is the LTD.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, or Inc.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's your development arm.
Correction. So the owner of the project
Yeah,
is the Elmwood Community Resource Center.
okay,
The name of the project is Elmwood Hub Project,
okay,
and they have engaged a developer to work with them.
Okay.
And that developer's name is Inuka.
and how do you spell that?
INUKA.
A,
Yes,
okay. And they're the developer who, and their role is gonna be, they're just gonna oversee the development of the project and they leave.
correct.
Thank you for coming today. You have any other questions at this point? Okay, yes, go ahead, Chelsea. Yeah.
So you mentioned you have, ECRC currently has distributed staffing at multiple locations. Could you just elaborate a little bit on, and I think you said they'll be all under one roof now? Okay.
So currently, we have 75 Brazier, where we offer our adult literacy program. And typically that program serves 50 adults to help them gain their high school diploma and have better employment afterwards. And we recently partnered with Riverwood House, where we offer our counseling program in collaboration to also support the resident within the house. The counseling program roughly sees over 3,000 people annually in providing mental health, gender-based violence, trauma counseling. And then our main location, 545 Watt Street, where there's a drop-in space where crisis case management housing support happens. And then we also have those satellite locations where one of them is at Elmwood High School, where we offer after-school program. The second one is at Paulson School, where we offer another after-school program. And the third one is at River Elm, where we offer an elementary after-school program. And recently, we've also, right across from 545 Watt Street, we've rented the parish hall to offer our employment program as well as our newcomer program, as we're running out of space.
Okay, so this new space, presumably you're gonna keep running your satellite, you know, your partnerships within schools, but this will give you more programming space. How much more compared to what you have now, say at 545 Watt?
It will give, right now, 545 is at 4,000 square footage. With new space, we'll have 22,000 square footage. So it's really large space that will allow to even bring a multi-use space / gym. So after school, kids can come to the space, but also on the weekend, family can use it as a wellness space for them. Thank you.
The Elmwood, the corporation behind it all, the Elmwood, repeat it again?
Elmwood Community Resource Center.
Community Resource Center. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
We tend to call ECRC.
ECRC, and who funds that?
Multiple level funding.
Okay,
So we have federal funding, municipal, provincial, and private donors.
who set up the ECRC? Under what
Yeah.
government body?
Actually, it was set up by community members. There was a 3-agency that came together.
Which three
In
agencies?
Elmwood Interagency Network, as well as Chalmers Neighborhood Project at the time, and EK Neighborhood Association that came together and formed Elmwood Community Resource Center.
Okay, but the bulk of your funding comes from which government?
The bulk of funding comes from both federal and provincial,
Okay, so would you say more federal or more provincial?
more federal,
Oh, more federal,
yes.
okay. So this is your operating funding,
Yes.
okay.
We have multiple more operating funds that are 5 years agreements.
Right.
So there's that sustainability in place as well.
At any point, did the city of Winnipeg say to you, look, to help your project along and to make it possibly that you could actually then leverage the value of the land too in terms of building into the project greater affordability? Did the city ever say to you that we'll give you the land for $1 and you can have the land? Or was that ever entertained or thought of?
No,
Why not? Why not?
The intent was to leverage existing strength that we have
Yeah.
in expanding the space.
I'm just
So-
curious because there's a value in land, right?
There is,
Yeah.
there is, and if absolutely, if this application goes through,
Yeah.
we can use the value of the land to leverage additional funding, and hopefully then we can explore increasing the affordable spaces.
As long as you have a lease, with the city,
As long as we have the land at.
right? Because there's a lease that you're still governed by the lease of the city, right?
Right now, we have a lease.
But is a new project also gonna be, it's still gonna be city land in a sense, no?
no, the ownership will convert.
Oh, we're transferring the land. Okay, so you are getting the land.
Correct.
Okay. What about the land that your building sits on? Like, is it the entire site?
No, it's just where the building sits on, so it's roughly 1 acre.
Okay. And what safeguard, this is not a question for you, it's a question for the city, I think. But anyway, thank you very much. Appreciate you guys. Thank you for all the efforts you're doing. I think it's wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay, our next registered speaker in support of the project is Cruz Woloski. Cruz, if you'd like to come forward, you'll have 5 minutes to make your presentation after you state your name.
Good morning, City Councilors, City Clerks, and community members. My name is Cruz Wolowski, and I'm here today on behalf of Colombian Alliance in Manitoba, a nonprofit organization that provides cultural support to Colombians and other Latin Americans individuals in Albert community area. I'm here today to express our support for Elmwood Hub project as a partnership collaborator. We believe in this initiative as this organization has been providing valuable support to ethnocultural communities for many years, and the need of a space like this is very important. We have been actively engaged in the ongoing conversations since the project's beginning. We clearly see the importance and the impact of creating a bigger space that connects individuals from diverse ethnic backgrounds within the Elmwood community. This hub is essential in our community as population is increasing in this neighborhood. This will allow individuals for fostering belonging, strengthening relationships, and enhancing access to resources for the community members. We ourselves, we don't have a space for our program. Sometimes ECRC will support us immediately when we need the space. This project will empower smaller ethnocultural communities to share a space for our youth at risk and families. We believe these projects can play a key role on building the network of support. We look forward to continuing our collaboration and contributing to success of this much needed community initiative. So just thank you.
Gracias, también.
Oh,
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you
Very
very
good,
much.
doing it for 16 years. So anyway, well, thank you very much. And I don't have any questions. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, so you are deeply implicated in this community of, some very new and, there's some more established newcomers from other parts of the world. And your programming is cultural and community-based, but I wonder if you have any extra thoughts on, the housing needs of the folks who are in your community, in this area.
Yes, we've seen, especially for violent base, that we need that, and we know that there's a lot of newcomers coming in this area. So when they make that process to come here, and while they establish, they need those units, this space, so they can start the new life. And that's what ECRC is supporting right now, newcomers, and it seems like it's growing. So we every day we just kind of collaborating in the way that we can support things. We need a space in our area. We need a bigger space that we can have those for sure. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you very much for speaking today. I'm going to call for a 10-minute break, a health break if we can. All in favor? Opposed, carried. Thank you. Okay, welcome back to the committee. We're here, still hearing delegations in support of. I'll get the clerk to call up the next.
So our next speaker in support of the application is Susan Brunel. Susan, would like to come forward. 5 minutes to make your presentation after you state your name.
My name is Susan Bruno. Hello, councilors. I live next door to the building being proposed. And I'd also.
You can have a seat, Susan.
Okay.
Please.
The lady Kathleen who was here, she had to leave and left her sheet with me. If I can have extra time to read it for her, that would be great. If not, I'll leave it in written form.
What we normally do in those circumstances, Mr. Clerk?
It would be up to the will of the committee. Typically, if someone is reading a statement on behalf of someone else, it would be done within their 5 minutes. There is always the opportunity though to.
We'll grant you extension of time if you need it for yourself as well.
Okay, all right, so I'll start. I'm here in support of the Elmwood Hub project. The Elmwood Community Resource Center, ECRC, is a great resource for all the community. In the 10 years I have lived next door to the center, they have helped me and my fellow seniors access programs and help with government applications for legal documents and counseling services. They help community members, newcomers, and youth access their programs and counseling services. They host clothing and household goods free giveaways, which are well attended and appreciated. In this proposed new buildings, they will have more room to expand their services and accommodate more people attending their programs and gatherings, meetings, and also their general meeting. The other floors of the new buildings will be much needed affordable rental apartments for families. There are elementary schools, junior high schools, and senior high schools not too far away that these families will require. What is now a field of dirt and weeds will one day soon hopefully be developed and utilized to its full potential with the upcoming new buildings. I feel very positive about these new buildings planned and feel they will greatly assist many people and provide much needed resources for our growing community. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then if I may, for
Please.
Kathleen, okay,
That was on behalf of yourself first.
that was mine, yes.
Okay, very good.
Yes.
Thank you.
Now, this lady, her name was Kathleen Stribe, and she's grown up in the Elmwood area and still lives in the community at 530 Trent, backing on to the new buildings coming, which backs on. And seeing that the property every day, she often wondered what would become of the space. So when she received information from ECRC during the door-to-door visits that the property was up for development, she was interested in following up more. She attended the November 1st open house, asked questions about parking, affordability of the units, and community supports. Her daughter Madison has some special needs and has accessed ECRC for educational upgrading, so she is somewhat familiar with the programs and was pleased to hear that they will be all housed in one building, making it more accessible for everyone. Her daughter has been on a waiting list for affordable housing for about 5 years. So her hope is that she and many others in need will have the opportunity to access this housing and supports available from this development. And she's 100% in support of this project. Thank you. Am I good?
Okay, thank you. Lori, please have a seat again. Thank you for that. And for well-spoken presentations. Are there any questions of our delegation? No, I just wanted to see if there was questions. So anyway, thank you very much.
Great.
Thank you for speaking. Anybody else?
Okay, so our next registered speaker in support of the application is John Courtney. John, if you come forward, you'll have 5 minutes to make a presentation after you state your name.
Thank you. My name is John Courtney. I am the community pastor at Riverwood Church. For the last 25 years, we've been operating a wide variety of supportive programming and resourcing in terms of the needs of our Elmwood community. This includes programs addressing many of the dominant issues that our community faces, including food insecurity, housing barriers, domestic violence, support for single parents and single mothers, issues of substance use and addictions. Most recently, we have undertaken a project called Riverwood House to build a 40-unit supportive recovery housing complex right in the neighborhood for our community that's now been in operation for 3 years and is at capacity. Over these last 25 years, we have collaborated and partnered with Elmwood Community Resource Center on many different initiatives and shared many responses together addressing the needs of our neighborhood. ECRC is a trusted and proven organization that has consistently led the way in our community. Over this time, they have grown substantially in their capacity and the impact that they have on our neighborhood. I'm here to voice my strong support for the project that ECRC is involved in to expand their community impact, their program space, and now to move further into housing solutions for our community. Housing is a critical need, and I couldn't be more enthusiastic to see supportive, affordable, and additional housing that is operated by an organization with a vision to invest into the families and the resilience of our neighborhood like they do. I can speak directly to the onerous process of balancing a budget in operating affordable and supportive housing. And I would say that ECRC's proposed percentage level of affordable housing is admirable in scope. And I also want to speak to what we have seen as a strong benefit in approaching housing like this as a mixed approach in housing as a way to balance the needs and desires of a neighborhood, as well as to build on the strengths that create stability, not just economically, but also in terms of the community capacity. So I want to voice my strong support for ECRC for this project. I am excited about it. And I want to say that we should not underestimate the impact that this organization has had on our Elmwood community over these past decades. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions at this time? No, thank you.
So that concludes those that we had pre-registered to speak. Just to confirm, is there anyone else in the gallery who would like to speak in support of the application? Brennan Zelico?
Yep.
Okay, Brennan, come forward.
Nothing further to add, just it's.
Okay, yeah, we do have you listed already.
Oh, perfect, thanks.
All right, with that, is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition to the application? Seeing none, is there anyone who would like to present for information on the application? Seeing none, at this time we can go to questions for the public service.
Any questions? Nope. Okay, I don't have any questions either. We have the applicant.
Okay, at this time, we'll call the applicant forward to speak in rebuttal to comments made. You'll have 5 minutes to make your presentation. Please note that no new information is permitted.
Thanks for having me back. I'll just reiterate some of the broad strokes of the initial presentation I made. The City of Winnipeg under the Housing Accelerator Fund and across all of our departments are excited to bring this application forward. This is really a role that the city can play as it relates to housing and affordable housing, and we're really excited. I think the 2 projects that will be developed, subject to this approval of the subdivision and rezoning, will contribute to the neighborhood. I think you heard from many delegates. From the proponents themselves, they'll contribute to economic stability, a stronger community, the various programming that ECRC is able to offer in an expanded capacity, and certainly the number of affordable and new market units as well will help contribute to affordability in our city and the revitalization of this particular area of the city.
Just a clarification on previous delegations, maybe you can help me out. So the ECRC units are 100, correct?
Yeah, approximately 100.
Okay, of which 30 of the units are social housing RGI for 20 years.
I believe so, yes, that's what they spoke to.
Okay. And 10 units are gender safe or women's shelter. What is that rent? How's that rent being structured?
So the 10 additional units are at that 79% at the median market rent. And I believe that the gender-based violence units perhaps cross those units, but I can't speak specifically to the number of how many are RG.
So 70 units are 79% market rent, sorry? Is that
The 10, so 40, they said 40 units in total are affordable.
No, they said 30 are social housing.
Yeah, so they said 40 are affordable. Of those, 30 are rent geared to income. So the remaining 10 would be at the market affordability rate at 79% median market rent.
10% of median market rent. And then what about the 70 again?
The 70 would be at market rent.
That's at market rent.
Or I guess it's 60 actually, sorry. Because 60 plus 10 plus 30.
Okay, yeah, sorry, you're right, 60, what am I saying? 60 at market rent. And then 60 plus 10 plus 30, okay. And then what is the balance? You were speaking earlier of total, okay, so that's part of the development. And what's the balance of the development?
So the other parcel that will be developed by FutureMark will include approximately 250 units total.
And who's the developer?
FutureMark.
How do you spell it?
Future, FUTUREMARK. It's in your presentation and the report.
Okay. And who are they?
They are the developer who's developing the northern parcel.
Who are they? Where are they from?
Alex Boersma spoke in delegation today. He represents FutureMark.
He's the one, okay. And then 250, and then what's the breakdown on that?
Approximately 250, of which 74 will be affordable at 79% of median market rent.
And the rest?
Market.
Okay, the rest is all market. And these are based on the subsidies that are being committed here, whether it be the 40 and the 100 units, or now the other 250, and of those 74 at the 79% market rate. Those are agreements in place for 20 years,
Yes.
20-year agreements with various levels of government, I guess, or through the feds.
The ECRC will already has a conditional commitment from the province.
Okay.
As they mentioned, they will be approaching federal money as well for the capital build. And FutureMark, I don't think needs to access federal funding to subsidize it because of the inclusion of market units. It helps the project move forward.
How do we know that they're going to secure that at 79% of median market rate?
So the city has an agreement with the province of Manitoba. When we don't have the capacity to monitor rents, the province of Manitoba does it for us. We have a monitoring agreement. So they will enter into an agreement with FutureMark to monitor the rents for 20 years.
The province enforces that.
Mhm.
Okay, and the other one as well, the province enforces it as well?
Both the province and the feds through the two funding streams.
And then after, let's say 20 years, if there's a change in governments or what have you, change in public policy, the land that we're talking about to both these entities would actually shift to them?
The land is intended to be transferred from the city to each proponent following the approval of the subdivision and rezoning and the registration of the lands.
Beyond 20 years, the city does not have any other safeguards.
Beyond, subject to the approval, beyond about a year from now, these lands will be transferred to these groups, less than a year probably.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any other questions at this time. Are there any other questions before we move on? Counselor, this is your ward. This is your first hearing, I believe, and we can help you through it. And if you have any questions at any point, feel free to ask.
Okay,
So I think we got to, there's a page in here.
ready to make motions?
Yeah, it's more on the motion page. I think it's 5 or 6.
Page 6 on this particular,
Six,
yeah.
thank you.
It varies.
Okay. Just get going here.
Yes, so what do you move the motion, then the recommendation, you make following the third motion is where you would give your supporting reasons and one way or the other.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I move that the report of the Winnipeg Public Service be taken as read.
Okay, the motion has been heard. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, carried.
I move that the receipt of public representations be concluded.
All in favor? Aye. Carried.
I move that the recommendation of the Winnipeg Public Service be concurred in and forwarded to the Setting Policy Committee on Property and Development.
That's correct.
In this instance, we can use the priority rezoning process as
yes.
it would be the administrative recommendation and there are no amendments being proposed.
So that's why they have a backslash. So there's no amendments being proposed, nor is there anybody in opposition.
Correct.
If there had been somebody here in opposition or amendments being proposed, if you were to propose amendments, then it couldn't jump, it would not be able to jump the standing committee P&D, it would have to go there. So,
Okay.
okay, so
So
it's
the
actually
second
to the
part then.
executive committee.
So I move that the recommendation of the Winnipeg Public Service be concurred in and forwarded to the Executive Policy Committee via the priority rezoning process.
Correct, and what would be your supporting reasons?
Okay.
Counselor, take as much time as you wish.
Thank you. I'll just go through my notes here. Yeah, I think this is a fantastic project. Better, a good use of city-owned land that was acknowledged to be underutilized, help us meet our goals under the HAF program. We know we need more housing of every type in our city and in our ward. So this will bring more market housing, affordable and deeply affordable housing to our community. I think attention has been paid to make this sensitive to the surrounding area. I think I'm hearing there's lots of support within the community for, especially the, ECRC's involvement in this. There's a lot of value that people have for the services that they deliver. And so they are, really excited to see, ECRC be able to, grow and continue to offer that service in building a stronger community. And also acknowledging that the vacancy rate in Winnipeg is very low right now. So again, emphasizing that need for housing. And in sum, I think this is a great project that I'm excited to see go forward.
Well done.
Thank you.
Councilor Bonnie, do you have anything like that?
No, I'm supportive. Yeah, looks like a good project.
Yeah, I too am supportive. I think it's a very good project. I want to congratulate the ECRC. And I believe you were actually on their board of directors before, so.
No.
Oh, okay, you were, my mistake. I think it's a great organization. I think they've done a lot of great work in the area, and of course, they're doing a lot of work around, I think, the Councillor Schreier area, the work that he did on Henderson and Johnson. And I just want to thank them for coming here today and the support that they have in the community and the work they have ongoing. I want to thank the public service of the city of Winnipeg for making the application. My direct question that I had during the hearing, and I guess I have harkened back to actually the last inauguration actually that we had down here after a civic general election, where I had an opportunity to speak to the late councillor's father, Ed Schreier, who was here. And, Ed said to me in the typical Ed Schreier way, he says, I can't really do the same kind of voice, but he basically said, we were talking about the housing crisis. And he said, he feels, it appears that we're moving towards what he termed the second feudal age. And in other words, that there's more and more people out there who are being forced to, who are not able to enter the home ownership market. Housing has been priced either in terms of the affordability of the house, the land, that combined, the inability to acquire a mortgage, finance because of the value of the land and the house combined, or a scenario where, incomes have also been affected over the decades that we've had in terms of this economy, and that more and more people, even when combining, are having difficulty getting into the housing market. Less so in this city, thank God. Up until now, we don't know what that future is going to look like. I think it's one that we are tepidly as governments involved in, but we have to get more aggressive if we're going to avoid the second feudal age, as the former Governor General referred to it as. And so my concern is that, and I want to just list these concerns, not to say that I'm very supportive of the application, but I think it's an opportunity when we don't, as councillors, have very often to speak to. And this is one of them. And I'm going to try to speak to it more often, including on the floor of council and other places. And that is, number one, it is city land today, but it does risk future privatization, which we have seen happen in other countries and other jurisdictions in this country, when governments kind of decide to get out of the housing business at future dates. And the risk is we see a privatization of land that is now publicly owned by the city in this case, being controlled and owned, in one case, by a private developer. After 20 years, there's no guarantee that this funding, and there's no guarantee on any city funding with affordability. But I guess the other concern I have is that I think the ECRC project is far more credible because of the level of a number of units being offered at affordability versus market rents. But at a time when we know the market, we heard today that individuals are still able to get into the market in Winnipeg in terms of the middle class, or most of the people in most many income brackets of the city. But the deep problem in the city is the affordability at what we call deep affordability at the low end, and that's the struggle we're struggling with. And until we see more RGI housing being made available on a large scale, we will not see, I think, a change in the crisis we're having right now. And furthermore, I just want to say I'm grateful to the government of Canada for, I guess, reorganizing their division, taking out of the CMHC and creating Build Canada. I think that's a step in the right direction, the new Crown Corporation. However, in the same breath, the government of Canada made the decision to basically facilitate new housing builds largely only with the development community. And I think that's a big mistake. Because I frankly believe that one of the reasons we have a housing crisis in this country is because not just the development community that we have today, which is large and a smaller group all the time in major cities in this country, but also because of the municipalities of our country who choose and prefer to deal with a handful of developers instead of multiple ones, quite often for large housing subdivisions. And that it has been our policy also as municipalities that have driven up the price of land directly in terms of 4 levels of municipal service and all the things we require in a road and all these other things now. And we have to really take a look at that if we want to make housing affordable again on a large scale to average Canadians. Because we are living in a country which unfortunately today is going to see less and less Canadians being able to qualify for a mortgage. More so in the big cities, which is sad. Or where you have to commute for 30 minutes or an hour or more to just work in the city and have a house to live in at the same time. This is the new reality in our country, and frankly, in a country as large size as Canada, with the population densities that we have, is completely unacceptable, and Canadians should be outraged by it. But anyway, those are my thoughts. I'll call the question on that. All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. It goes on to the committee. Would you like to move the other motion, Councillor?
Yes, I move that the public hearing with respect to this application be concluded.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Please note that the committee has made a recommendation on this matter that will now proceed to council. No further representations are permitted. All persons registered for the public hearing will receive notice when the matter is to be considered by council.
I'm going to request just a minute break to let people leave, and then we'll get back to the regular agenda. Let's just go to the regular. Go regulars? Okay. Back into it we go. Why do I feel moving? All right, so I'm gonna, if Councillor Duran would, if you would like to keep the chair, I have to move some appointments to the Transcona Historical Museum Board, which I think I'm ready to do. I am going to move that number 1, the 1-year citizen designate shall be, my application shall be
Councilor,
run.
can we just wait until the doors?
Oh,
open?
yes, absolutely. Sure.
Thank you.
Yes. Good idea.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. Ryan Joshua Frick shall be the counselor designate. That's that application there. And I'm gonna move that 4 citizens for 2-year appointments. The ones that I have available, 4 set appointments at this time are as follows. And I do have the 4, and then there's 1 for 1 year. So what I like to do is the following. I'm gonna move Rick Walker in the 2-year citizen appointment. I'm gonna move Dan Morier as also a 2-year appointment. I have an application here, which is, those are 2 existing board members who are being reappointed. Rick is the chair. He's done a wonderful job, by the way. And he's a former head of libraries for all the city of Winnipeg. Retired. I'm gonna move Chris Giesbrecht to a 2-year citizen appointment term. And finally, there's an individual who I refer resume. I don't know her, but she also lives in the ward, which I believe is, it's not a requirement, but it's something that I look for. And Barbara Ann Anderson to be moved as a 1-year position.
The 1 year?
In the 1 year, which leaves, I guess, 1 outstanding position in the 2-year term that we have available. I'll be speaking to the board of directors about that. And if possible, if the clerk doesn't mind, even though they're not inside the ward, I would request via this motion here, included in this motion, that the balance of the applications, which are 4, of residents of the city of Winnipeg, but not necessarily living in the Transcona ward, before referred to the executive to the museum and the executive of the museum to review these and to see if they find or if they believe there's any person here that's worthy, and maybe they want to interview them or talk to them. I welcome them to do that. And to give me advice back on that appointment. Or in the event there's somebody else that comes forward that maybe missed the deadline, that can be considered. And if it can be pointed out to them that the next meeting is when? January.
January.
Okay, so we gotta, hopefully that gives them enough time to determine that outstanding position and give me a suggestion for a recommendation on that. So that would be the one amendation to the resolution that we'd make in order to fill the outstanding 2-year appointment. Yeah, and if they could communicate back via yourself, Mr. Harris, I would move that as well. And if you can let me know on the status of it, if of what their recommendation is for that outstanding appointment, so we get to look after it by January.
Okay.
Thank you. And that's it.
All right, okay,
There's mine.
I will call the question.
Okay.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
And then we have another item, which we laid over.
6 and 7. Those were the Communities Fund grant and the per capita grant.
Oh, yes. There we go. So the first one up is the Transcona Legion. Yeah, so this is for their 100th anniversary. As the councillor, Wood may or may not know, we have delegated authority on the community fund and actually all our funds. From when I left council, the councillors decided to give delegates, so you don't have to bring these to this community committee. I just like the level of accountability. I like the fact it's public money. And I like the fact that the community gets to know if it's on the agenda. That's why I bring it more often, not just my own personal choice, just so you know. But and sometimes I do, where they need the funds right away, like we did with the High Number Festival, when the police told them that they needed $12,000 instantly to close the street off of the parade. Then, that is where we step up right away. But anyway, I will move this $5,000.
Councillor Duran-Wood still in the chair?
Oh, yes, thank you. Councillor, do you mind?
I don't mind.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I'll move that if you're still in the chair, Councillor Duran-Wood.
Okay. So.
And that's from the Transcona share of the community fund, $5,000, which interestingly enough, another group is returning money, the community club of South Transcona, we're waiting that check, which we understand is coming. So apparently I can move this subject to that. So, and then at the time the check is available, just a special request, I'd like to be able to pick it up and deliver it myself to the Legion. So
noted.
I don't drink anymore, but I sold it. So, okay.
Okay, so I guess all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Why can't I find that other page that you gave me? And I know you did. I might have spare. I don't.
Nope. Councillor Browani's.
So I guess we're moving on to number 7.
Yes, if you don't mind keeping the chair, this is the Transcona Council of Seniors. Every year in December, they do a Winter Wonderland bus tour, Christmas lights for seniors. And I funded it in the past, or contributed towards it in the past. They do a wonderful job in doing programming. They're very much along the same lines that the good neighbors that you have in your area. And so I just want to thank Lori Dahl, Pauline Tackerberry, who's actually retiring this year, who's done an amazing job with that organization. And anyway, I just want to, and who's a wonderful person. So yes, I'd like to move this $1,000 towards that. Again, it's going to be subject to that other money coming back. So,
This is a per capita grant. You do have the fund.
oh, I just funny, but I didn't know. Thank you. Totally.
All right, favor?
Aye. And I do have one item of new business. I don't know if anybody else has any new business. Do you councillors have any new business? So the only thing is I have the motion pertaining to, I just wanted to make one change. I want to, number one, move a motion to rescind the motion.
We could just start with a motion for new business.
Oh, yes, the new business motion is the Victoria Avenue. What did we calling it here? What did you call it?
I had it originally as, I believe it was Victoria Avenue East Traffic Study.
Yeah, and I think, rebrand, I guess it is a traffic study, but you're right, let's call it that. So I'd like to move a motion, so that's what I'm gonna move, suspension of the rules, or Councilor Wadi, can you take the chair?
Sure.
I'm gonna move suspension of the rules.
All in favor?
Aye.
Votes carried.
And I will move that the motion that was made at the last meeting, which I think was November the 12th, be rescinded.
Motion. Just for formality, that is item number 6 from the November 12th meeting, traffic study, Victoria Avenue East.
Understood. All those in favor? Aye. Those carried.
And I'm gonna be moving the motion, which is basically exactly the same. Which is to say, specifically that, it has everything else in it except, and basically, so that it goes clean to the standing committee. This way it doesn't go showing it like an amendment and then they're reading it and they're saying, what was it? So I'm just moving I'm moving it as a new motion, if you like. But for your sake, just so you know, and Councilor Roy was at the last meeting and Councilor Brian Wood had to leave because of the other hearing matter. And I would say that it's basically the same. It is the same motion, except number 1. Number 1 was road widening required to upgrade at major collector standards. That is being eliminated. So I will read this. Sorry. And I just recall what Councillor Duran Wood suggested to me yesterday, which I thought was a good idea. Can I use that word? Okay. The transit department begin to enforce a 30-kilometer maximum speed limit on this section of Victoria Avenue East as it pertains to the operation of any transit bus. So this is the new motion. You wish to hear the whereases committee? Sure. No. Hey, no, okay. I'll read the be resolved. Therefore be resolved. The Standing Policy Committee on Public Works be requested. Direct the Winnipeg Public Service to undertake a traffic study on Victoria Avenue East from approximately 611 Victoria Avenue East to Redonda Street, including consideration of the following. Road safety measures to improve the safety of pedestrians, including but not limited to A, traffic circles, B, mini traffic circles, C, raised traffic tables, D, new 3 or 4-way stop signs at intersections, E, signalized pedestrian crossings. 2, that the above item should consider better connectivity using said safety upgrades at the Wood Lake intersection, access to Victoria Jason Park, and new safety improvements to slow traffic in the vicinity on 611 Victoria Avenue East for all forms of traffic. Three, the full reconstruction of Victoria Avenue East from Victoria Avenue East in this section of the Center Road, to end the shaking of homes. 4, that the above items be done in a consultative manner with Public Works, the Winnipeg Transit, area residents, and the area councillor. And finally, 5, and this is the new 5, that the transit department begin to enforce a 30-kilometer maximum speed limit on this section of Victoria Avenue East as it pertains to the operation of any transit bus, which I understand apparently is now being done in other parts of the city on certain roads. And that's the motion, councillors, and for her assistance and suggestion on that last point. Thank you.
I'll just put on the record, I will not be supporting today's motion.
Okay.
This is a major route. The FX3 is a frequent express bus. You start slowing them down to 30 kilometers an hour, it's no longer frequent or express, or at least express. So again, this This is a very heavily operated route. There's a lot of these buses. People are gonna get frustrated if they're stuck behind a 30 km/h bus when they're trying to get home or go wherever they're trying to go. So, no, I will not be supporting this motion today.
Let me speak to it, Mr. Chairman. I would, I moved the motion because residents in the area reached out to my office for serious concerns about this. It was a major change that occurred, number one. Number two, I sat on the Public Works Committee when this was all being contemplated, and unfortunately heard I raised concerns which were not addressed, I felt, in terms of public consultation that should have taken place prior to the rollout of the master transit plan that we have today. No advertising was bought on social media. The only advertising for the public open houses was through the City of Winnipeg website, which not everybody reads every day. And it was kind of thrown back to the council and the committee, well, you could advertise it. Well, this is a massive project taking place across our city. And councillors already are very engaged in the community online, and they did, and many councillors did, to their credit. But it really is a project which, when we do this thing in any other city, there's a full level of engagement with public advertising to let people know what's happening. I think the changes, number three, were caught a lot of people off guard. I think we're struggling now to make amendments to it. I see advantages of the new system, but at the same time, I would say that the new system was designed in a way that really is in the event you have a rapid transit system with this proposal or idea works great. Biggest challenge right now, and I think this is the thing that I hear from a lot of residents out there, is the fact that residents are having to walk longer distances before to access the bus stop. And in the case of this site, actually, the residents who used to live on, and many of them live in I guess apartment housing that goes back to the 1950s, 60s, and 70s. It's the two-story walk-up brick buildings, many of them. And I see them all the time now, walking from Kildare south to Region, where before they were able to catch these frequent buses right on Kildare. And if, let's say, Region were a rapid transit line, like you see with the blue line heading to the University of Manitoba, they would be entering into a station, which would be heated, probably supervised. And now you have not only having residents and transit users having to walk long distances, you also have, at one end, you also have the situation at the other. We're trying to address the issue of frequency, so they're not having to wait often, but that can only really be addressed in terms of waiting for the transfers by putting more buses literally on the road. And I don't mean replacing existing buses, I mean expanding the fleet. Till we as a council make a decision to expand the fleet, we're going to constantly hear about this. And we have not expanded the fleet for a number of years now in the way that we really should, that we did about 2012, I think. Which then was a massive expansion, but partly because we hadn't done it for 20 years, you know. And so the mayor likes to say that we've added 80,000 people in the last 3 or 4 years. Well, most of those folks, a lot of them are new Canadians. What are they doing? They're riding the bus, right? And so how can we say on the one hand, we're growing as a city, but on the other hand, we've given a directive to the transit department that you shall not expand the fleet. You shall live within your existing resources to provide the same level of service. Not only that, the level of service has changed in the sense because the entire routing system has changed. I think that's what's really frustrating to folks. And the fact that a lot of the shelters that we had planned on rolling out are still yet coming with this. We don't have them yet. So there's a lot of concerns being heard. And so I guess specifically to this area, I'm sympathetic to the residents, because if we had a street, to Councillor Body's point, he's right, that it is a major collector, but we don't maintain it. And I could take Councillor Body to it, or any member of council, or any administrator, and show them the state of the street. And if this was a major collector, it would not be allowed to have the kind of joints collapsing and houses shaking. It would be built to a proper standard and it would be maintained to that level. So as this motion points out, that's one of the things that it requests in the motion, that be considered. Having said that, even though we as councillors set aside the one-on-one, we created it with the support of a public service, right? That now is over $200 million in it, going by $15 million a year, 7.5 for roads, regional roads, 7.5 for local. We previously, as councillors, actually had an opportunity every year to sit down with the Public Works Department and review the list of streets that are coming up, which was taken away by a previous council, I believe the previous mayor. So it's really unfortunate because that level of consultation that was automatically provided initiated actually by the Public Works Department. 2 members of council on an annual basis is gone, and that's something that really needs to come back. Especially now we're dealing with issues like this. So I hear Councilor Bawani's concerns, but I think the residents in the area do have a legitimate concern. Maybe if it's not on the point of view that this is my street, don't let buses go down it, meaning that it's a major collector, they did buy a house, siding on or facing that major collector, or even what you would call a minor collector in this case, probably somewhere in the middle. The city has not maintained the road. And the pedestrian access points and the pedestrian connectivity is lacking in terms of the major neighborhood park in the area, in terms of safely getting across the street mid-block, and in terms of the speeds that I did witness myself that are being generated largely at certain times by the 2 high schools that are located at the end of the block with young people who are either late for class or leaving the school as quickly as they can. So those are the challenges that is being faced, and I appreciate the committee. I hope this motion passes because I think that the residents in the area do deserve their time before the standing committee of public works. And I think that's something that we've done in the past, and I think that's a necessary dialogue that's allowed to happen. Otherwise, you're just going to have disgruntled residents who are going to feel disconnected from their city. And therefore, those are my comments on the motion, Mr. Chairperson.
Okay, motion's been heard. All those in favor? Opposed? Carrie or Carrie, sorry, recorded.
Sorry, just catching up here. Sorry, can I back things up a little bit?
Sure.
Can I just clarify this motion is to
Request.
have the public works consider these things
Correct.
here, so we're not mandating them.
We don't have the power.
Obviously, we don't have the power to do that, so I guess I just wanted to clarify, the suggestion of perhaps slowing down the buses on Victoria. Obviously, that would be at Transit's discretion, whether they recommended that or whether they thought that was feasible and how that would fit into scheduling, whether that would cause delays to the level of service. So if my understanding of that is correct, then yes, I will support the motion.
Thank you. And that, yeah, just maybe Councilor Boyd, but yeah, we could speak to this, but as the chair, but Councilor Boyd, if I could just point out,
Yep.
we don't have the ability to actually tell a higher committee what to do. They will take it back. We can go before them, request it, but they ultimately will make that decision. That's their jurisdiction. Based on advice they receive also in public service, which is what you mentioned as well. So, yeah.
Okay. Motion's been heard. All those in favor? Opposed? Nay. Recorded? Sure. Carried.
Thank you for doing that, in terms of being the chair. Yeah. And I will, is there any other items in business? Seeing none? Any other items? No, okay. Councilor Granwood moves adjournment. Okay, all in favor, opposed, carried. Thank you.
Thank you.